Welcome to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachel Brooks Smith.
And I'm Emilio Palafox. And today we have some recent near and dear friends of ours, award-winning duo Renny and Boston.
They may have even, let me be in one of their movies.
This is correct. Who are the creators of this upcoming sci-fi action feature film, Alien Country. Mm-hmm. Together they have produced and directed for top brands such as Reebok, Nokia, Sony, Google, Gatorade, and Coca-Cola. Now, whether they're working in television, movies, web spots, or gaming, Renny and Boston thrive on creating compelling, action-packed, character-driven stories. From working with a live bear for a virtual world, bringing video game characters to life, or interviewing accomplished personalities, they've developed their dynamic style, competing for the short-lived attention span of the millennial YouTube and TikTok generation, and garnered their signature style, creating content that's clickable, watchable, and shareable. I couldn't agree more. Boston and Renny, welcome to the show.
Woo.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
And if I could get a copy of that written down, I'm going to use that for the rest of my life.
Speaking from the heart, from the corazón.
Guys, so excited to have you on the show. I think this has been an episode I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about this. I was on set of Boston Renny's film Alien Country, which, by the way, we are all so excited for the world to get to see this movie. It is so good.
Get that in the brain, audience.
Get that in the brain.
Alien Country.
It is. I just really believe in this movie so much, and I loved being a part of it.
Yeah.
But because the show is all about relationships, you guys are a couple that works together in a creative field. Obviously, so are we, and we're really passionate about helping other people that want to do the same. So let's get right into it though. Like, what's been one of the hardest things you guys have been through as a couple that works together in a creative field, and how did you overcome it?
I jump right into I was working in Silicon Valley at this company called Google.
Don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
I think I've heard about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent some time there, and at a certain point realized, like, we're filmmakers. We were doing like film production and virtual reality production at Google, but like I really wanted to go out and do my own content, create my own content. And so we had a couple of gigs lined up, and actually great paying gigs. We had a YouTube channel going. We were just about to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're like, you know what? We're going to commit to making YouTube videos full time. We have this big client that's going to pay us enough to like have 6 months of runway, for our YouTube channel. And then I had this gig from the Olympic channel come in, and they were like, yeah, I flew to like Nigeria and Canada and was going to do all these videos for Olympic channel, doing 360 video. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to freelance. And we left Google, paycheck, salary, and the Olympic channel gig fell through. And that client canceled their video game, and the video game fell through, meaning they weren't going to pay us to make a video. And we were counting on all that. And we spent a year and a half having to scramble and figure out a new business. And, it was a tough year. We moved from Silicon Valley to Utah, where we had purchased a home. And we were like, what are we doing?
Wow.
I think that was the hardest. Sorry, long answer, but that was the hardest,
How'd you guys get through that? That is a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But what's interesting is right before that happened, we had what we felt like was a pretty significant sign to make this decision and to make that move. We were doing our YouTube channel basically full time, but we were also both had our side hustles and our real jobs, like our day jobs, full time. And we had flown to Utah on a red-eye flight, basically got off a plane and filmed a YouTube video in the bitter cold of February at it was 19 degrees, and neither of us were dressed very well for it. And we just fell apart on set. We were so tired and we were so exhausted. And I remember there were many tears shed that weekend. And we ended up flying home and just thinking we've got to make something work. We can't do the full-time tech job and the full-time YouTube job and the full-time, we were also doing client work as well for commercials. Whatever we could take, we were taking, and it exhausted us. So I feel like that decision was made, and it was a really great feeling. But then when we made the leap, a lot of things fell through, and we really had to scramble for about, like Boston said, about a year and a half to figure out what we were doing. So
wow.
Well, kudos to you, because I think there's a lot of people who, we'll face a lot of stress, challenges, adversities, and not, I mean, I didn't know you guys back then, but you guys still face a lot of stress, challenges, a whole bunch of things. And every time we're around you, whether it's on set or hanging out at the house, like, you guys are like calm and collected. Like, you guys are collected and like so joyful and playful. So, and I gotta say, so there's so many things I want to ask. I guess I'll start off by saying, just being real. Like, honestly, you guys are an inspiration, even more so hearing this story, because we're in the same boat right now, right? Like, we have our brand and all these things, but then we're also doing like the tech stuff and helping companies. And it's like, really, we're in it right now in the transition to just do 10x us, And so I think I'm excited to kind of continue to have this interview, because I think not only us, I think there's a lot of couples like that, and a lot of people like, hey, do we do the one thing, or do we just spread ourselves thin maybe?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question too, because like in your guys' story, right, you had lots of opportunities coming. And I think, for us and for other people we've talked to, it's like you get lost in I don't want to say no, because then I'm saying no to opportunity, but then at the same time, you're also saying no to focusing on your big dream and your big vision. And so how do you guys balance that? And also, like, what do you do if one person is thinking one thing and the other person is thinking another thing? Like, how do you find a common ground to move forward?
That's a really good question. I've actually in a period of time right now where I am saying no to a lot of passion projects. Like you, Rachel, I've done a lot of modeling and acting in as my profession, and I really decided to like take hold of my dream and make my own content. So hence Alien Country was born. We can talk about that more a little bit later, but in the transition to making commercials and Alien Country, I've really like begun honing my producing skills, and I've actually been doing so much more producing that I've taken a lot of steps back in my acting, with the caveat of like, if something amazing comes along, yes, I would love to take advantage of that and take a look at it, and I'm constantly looking for really exciting opportunities, but I'm very, very focused on these other skills right now. And I feel like I literally had this thought today as we actually drove in today from doing some pickup shots for Alien Country. But I have this thought today where I feel like this period of time is preparation for something even better and bigger. And I don't know what that is yet, but I had that thought and I was like, it's inevitable, because every time we wrap a project, we start a newer, bigger project, whether it's been a YouTube video or a commercial or a series or a video game or a movie or whatever. Like, I just feel like the opportunities have only gotten bigger and better. And so what you're saying is really interesting, is like, I have taken a little bit of a step back on something I'm very passionate about. But I'm trying to be patient with that and understand that like, it's not the end all be all, and that will still be on the table when the time is right.
Yeah. I think there's been lots of transitions in Renny and my life where we want to embark on like a new thing or do something new, and it's always a struggle to build something new. But Renny had me listen to this guru who talks about being ADHD and how that's an incredible thing for entrepreneurs. And it's funny because the last D in ADHD stands for disorder, and I think we should drop that off and just say this is a brain type, not a disorder. Because if you just understand that you're a creative brain type that has this type of a focus, pattern, then you can just harness that. And she was saying like, what you can do is like, ultimately it's always 80-20, and at Google they do 80-20. Like in life, and in economics, 80-20 principle comes up all the time. But whatever your biggest, like, first of all, you might be juggling a lot of plates. I feel like we were YouTube, this client work. What's gonna help us facilitate like the life we want to live, right? And it might just come down to money, and it did for the first year when I left my corporate job, right? And so 80% of our time, or really 120% of our time, was spent just focused. Like we had to find something to fill the void of making money, and eventually really became client work. We started doing commercials and making commercials for companies, and that became, the thing we got paid for, right? And then we had a couple of really good years when we built good relationships with clients. We had some really successful commercials, and then we repeat customers and all that kind of stuff. And so that filled up 80% of our, at first it was 120% of our time. We were working overtime, right? Like more than 40 hours, 80-hour weeks. And then you can shift that into focusing for the 80% or less. And then you can fill this other time with writing a script, and then there might be like 10 scripts you want to write. And then you figure out which one's the one that you care about the most. It became Alien Country. And eventually we got to a point where financially we could raise enough money to make this movie. And we shifted what was our client work down to 20% and spent 80% on Alien Country. And with two of us, it's actually cool because we can shift off and balance each other's, the financial burden of one another. And, and I take client work and Renny can focus on producing, or she can take client work or work for a, production company for a period of time. And I can spend a whole bunch of time and literally the last year of my life has been 100% of my time has been Alien Country, this feature film. So it's been really cool. But I think it's always shifting that time in those percentages, and you start to cook up something, and then but with ADHD, focusing for at least giving yourself a deadline and or an out, and saying I'm going to work until I hit this milestone 80% of my time, and that's what we've been able to sort of do for a couple of years with this project. And I mean, I am so done. Like I have so many other projects I want to move on to. Yeah. So like emotionally, I'm still torn, but I'm like, we're about to hit a really big deadline in Picture Lock the movie. Yeah. And once we're there, I can start shifting that 80% of my time on Alien Country down to 60%, 50%, and start filling it with other scripts and other projects. So
I love that.
Yeah. And what I love about this is, and if you guys are just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're interviewing award-winning duo Boston Renny, where they made a movie together about aliens and also about car chases and motorcycles and dogs and just relationships. It's a fun film, and we can't wait till it comes out in 2022. And so we're going to be talking that here shortly, but I want to say too, what you just mentioned, Boston, it reminds me of something I saw on your guys' Instagram where it says couples who work together never stop working. And I love that because it's so true.
We couldn't agree more.
So we couldn't agree more. And so did you guys know this going in? Do you like it? Is this something you like or dislike? Like, would love to know more.
Yeah. So we met on a film set. And very shortly thereafter, this was about 10 years ago, and very shortly after, we started making content together. So I feel like in a way it's all we know. That being said, I feel like there have been times where we're really good at sprinting. Sometimes I feel like it's a never-ending sprint, but we have had to really back up and create boundaries. And there have been times, we don't always follow this rule, but there have been times where we'll be like, we can't talk about work after 8 p.m. because it's just like, we need our brains to relax. We need to be able to just have or we can talk about anything other than work, or spend some really high quality time together. But it just so happens that what we love to do together happens to be what we love to do all the time. And so I feel like...
for example, generally speaking, we aren't working around the clock, but today's Sunday when we're recording this. And yesterday we left at 11, drove down to Goblin Valley, Utah. I borrowed a drone and we shot these pickup shots for our movie. They're aerial shots with the stunt double. We picked up the stunt double. We shot through, just till the sunset, and then went to bed. Woke up before sunrise, shot some more shots, went back to Goblin Valley, got more drone shots, and then drove home in time to make this interview. And that's our weekend. It's not a vacation, but it kind of is. It's like, to some degree,
Yes.
So I think that if you're your own boss, you might be a terrible boss, but hopefully you like your job.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point that we often say. We've also had to do similar things, and people listening, if there's couples that are working together, or even best friends who are working together, or people that if you're thinking about going into business with a really close friend or partner in some way, I think it's just really important, like you talked about, boundaries. And this is something I think a lot of people just don't get taught. Like, they don't learn the lesson. They don't learn that they can speak up about what they want, and they need to communicate with each other. Hey, what feels good for you? What doesn't feel good for you? And I know we've definitely set some of those boundaries as well. Okay, after a certain time, let's try and do X, or and it does get really difficult when you love what you're doing, so you don't want to stop doing it together, but then you don't get to spend just quality time just loving on each other.
I mean,
But just getting to my question is, when it comes to setting boundaries, especially when you're on tight schedules, you're under stress, like what has helped you guys, and what advice would you give to other people who are struggling in learning how to set boundaries with their partner?
Or anyone else?
Or anyone, yeah.
Well, I want to say that most of the time, this may or may not be good advice, but in our experience, a lot of times the deadlines that we set for ourselves or get set are fairly arbitrary. Like, the world is not going to end if a deadline doesn't not get met, right? And that being said, so there have been times where it's like we will feel so overwhelmed by something, and we'll just literally be like, you know what, we're doing the best that we can. We've got to let go. Like, Fan X is a really good example. You guys were in town when we did that demo screening, or like the 20-minute screening, and we basically dropped the edit of the movie and spent we lost 2 weeks on the film to, getting it closer to being finished, because we had to put so much time and energy into this booth that we created, and for preparing for this comic convention and for the screening. And afterwards we were like, oh my gosh, was that a waste of time? We don't know. We feel so behind. We were very stressed about it. We were very tired. I actually literally scheduled massages for the Sunday after we wrapped that weekend, because I knew we were going to be so exhausted. And I don't do that very often, but I just I just knew that we were going to be drop dead so tired, Yeah. But we just kind of had to let go of this. I don't remember the specific deadline that we had, but we did have a deadline, and we're just two people. We can't do it all, and we're doing the best that we can. And sometimes that feels like you're not accomplishing enough, or you're not, rising to the occasion or whatever. But at the same time, you just have to have so much grace with yourself and and just be like, we're doing the best that we can, and this is what it is.
It's also nice to have friends in your orbit who aren't entrepreneurs, who just have a 9-to-5 job, and then you can talk to them about what you're doing. You're like, oh, I guess I am really doing a lot, and not to I'm not talking down. I think their lifestyle is amazing. My neighbors, my friends who I talk to about stuff, but it gives me a nice litmus test to say to myself, yeah, I'm working at least as hard as them, or 10 times harder in some cases, but I am working, and forgive yourself when you set really high standards if you're trying to accomplish more, because entrepreneurs or startups, all that, you burn the candle at both ends because you're trying to compete, with your ideals, with the ideal self you want to be. And I love that. I love what you're saying is the other side of that Renny was mentioning is it's not just forgiving yourself if you're not meeting an expectation, being proud when you are, of anything you're accomplishing, and creating out of nothing. And then a little bit beyond that is booking massages. I talked with a friend of mine who's the classic CEO questions are, people say, how do you become or what makes a good CEO of a company? And they're like, well, good decision making. How do you learn good decision making? Experience. Well, how do you gain experience? Bad decision making. It's we've probably had plenty of times where we were, filming something in the middle of, 19-degree weather in Utah in February, and we didn't book massages. Yeah. And we knew we were burning. It was a weekend thing equivalent to a comic convention, shooting this video and then flying back to Silicon Valley. And we had known how hard that was on our bodies. And Renny, knowing that in the past, it's you know what? I'm going to book massages so that we feel good after this thing. And you just have to, you learn how to operate at a higher level just through experience and tough choices that become better choices.
Well, and even this weekend, I'm going to delve into a little more personal. This weekend we were starting our road trip yesterday, and we were feeling frustrated in general about just feeling rushed. Sometimes it feels like we always feel rushed. Oh my gosh, we're leaving at this time. Does this mean that we're going to beat the sunlight? We're trying to get to down to Goblin Valley by 5:30 so that we beat the sun, literally. And we just felt so rushed. And there was frustration that was rising. And I literally just had to say hey, you know what? I've been working really hard for the last 3 weeks. I just need some positivity. Let's just be positive as we drive down. And we had to mentally and like emotionally shift ourselves as we started the drive down on this, because we were about to go pick up an actor and we were about to go like, you know, spend 3 hours riding in a car together. And I just like felt my brain like I wanted to kind of lash out a little bit and get like complainy and be like, I'm so exhausted. But at the end of the day, it was just like, if I want this trip to be fun and have a great time, like we just need to shift our mental attitudes right now. And it really does. It takes just like a moment, and it takes that self-awareness in the moment to be like, let's breathe and let's chill out and let's have a good time.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh man, everything you said.
It's not like we're immune to like fighting or, you know, being, you know, getting upset with each other or like having tough times. I think we've just learned from working together so much that we like know each other and like we know when we need to slow down or chill out or.
Yeah, and you learn that like fighting's just not worth it sometimes. And you're like, yeah, I really want to just talk about this thing, but it's like, you know what? I really don't have the emotional bandwidth to have a fight about that. So I'm going to just go ahead and put a pin in that. And then you realize a half an hour later, I didn't really want to have a fight about it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about it. And I was angry.
Man, that's so many things you just said.
No, I know. I feel like there needs to be a reiteration of a lot of these things. First of all, you know, starting with the boundaries, the grace, the self-love, the forgiveness, the like patting yourselves on the back because you guys have done a lot of things. So I think for everyone listening, like, you know, and whether it's like comparing to the 9 to 5 or to anything, it's like you guys probably doing a lot. Give you guys some massages and just some self-love. But what we're coming into right now in terms of, we always at Relationship Renegades talk about always creating an environment where we feel like safe, seen, heard, loved. And I think the fact that you guys can voice saying, look, I just can't do this. I feel like we just need to create some positivity. How can we do this? And like, and then like you, Boston, just saying, hey, look, I'd rather just put a pin in it, right? Another big thing about Relationship Renegades is to like remove the ego. I think those are some really key themes that it seems that really help your guys' relationship.
Yeah, and big takeaways for anyone listening right now. I think a lot of people, one, don't know that they can speak up. Right, even to a close partner, they just haven't learned that skill of like, if you're feeling a certain way, know that you can voice it, not in a demanding, not in a like hateful way, but in a like, hey, I need you to know that I'm feeling this way right now. And you said that so beautifully. And then together said like, how can we shift the mood? I need help. Like, I think those things are really important to know that like, anyone listening, say those things. Say how you feel, speak your truth, and do it in a loving, kind way. And it's really powerful.
Now, real quick, for those listening, we're going to be going into our rapid fire question round. But before we do, if you guys are just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're talking to the award-winning duo Boston and Renny. And we truly believe that it's like a knowing with us that you guys 100%. Are inevitably going to be some of the best directors, producers, and actors on planet mother loving Earth.
And 100%.
I really mean that, guys. If you guys don't know about them, really check out Boston and Renny. And so what I want you guys to stay tuned with, if you guys are interested in learning more, I want to be asking what their vision is for both themselves and their TV and film career. So stay tuned if you want to listen to that.
Yes.
Babe, do you want to get into the prayers?
Okay, rapid fire. This is just a quick segment. It's a lot of fun. You have to answer fast, so no thinking.
Or not fast. Sometimes it's not fast.
No, it's got to be fast. It has to be fast. All right, Renny, you first. Super simple. What makes you smile?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. I would say right now it's my dog and my husband.
Yay!
Yes, I love it.
Good, it's fair.
So good. All right, Boston, your turn.
Your turn.
What makes you smile?
The first thing that came to mind was sunshine, outdoors, and family. So.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, now we're gonna go Boston. First question: what's your idea of a perfect date night?
Movie. Going out to a movie theater right now, especially, and just delicious food. I don't know why I thought of kebabs, but I don't.
Kebabs, perfect date.
That's what I'm craving.
Yeah. Now, would it be chicken, lamb, or beef?
Yeah, it was the other beef kebabs, but it would probably be lamb would be better.
Okay. And then
menu.
Ready?
We celebrated. Well, we went out to a hotel a couple months ago. I don't even know what we were celebrating. And there was a restaurant walking distance, and we stayed the night at the hotel, and that was just so simple. Like it was a little mini getaway. We got to go to this little resort, have some lovely food, and then we spent the night together, and it was just super fun and relaxing, and no distractions.
I love it.
Very cool.
I love it. But
Very
sometimes
cool.
it's true, like the simple things can be like that special.
Staycations.
Okay, this might be a little bit longer of an answer, but I gotta ask it because I think it's really important to this conversation. What was the movie that made you fall in love with and want to be a filmmaker? Boston?
Yeah, no, got it.
Okay.
The Matrix was.
Yes.
I think The Matrix blew my mind, especially because they were inventing new filmmaking techniques. Team Wachowski was, and like and their vision, and they created this story that had so many levels and so much interest. And it was so original too. It wasn't something, they weren't rebooting something, they were creating something out of nothing and creating really cool ways to do it. Yeah.
I love that. Renny?
So the movie that made me want to be an actress was My Girl with Macaulay Culkin.
Oh my gosh, I love
yeah,
it.
it's a great movie.
That's a great movie.
Yes.
I was like 6 or something when I watched that, and I like bawled my eyes out. I don't know.
Great
love
film.
that.
I didn't know that I wanted to be a quote filmmaker until I was on set working with a Oscar award-winning producer. I was actually his assistant, and I was like, oh damn, I want to be a producer. And so I would have to credit that movie and that experience for making me want to become a quote filmmaker. Because before that, I didn't just want to be an actress, because it's not just being an actress, but I had always looked for acting, but it wasn't that experience
I love it.
that I wanted to be a producer.
So cool.
Very nice, very nice. All right, next question is, what's your, and anybody can take this one, what's your idea of oh no, we already said that. When was the last time you tried something new, and what was it?
Gosh, this is bad.
Anytime.
Gosh,
Quick
something
answer.
We're not
new.
trying to Oh no, I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, actually, so I have been, for the last little while, learning to do 3D modeling on the computer. And it's just a completely different creative process. So I'm using new programs, new things. So like, I just used a new program. It's a tiny little program. It's called TopoGun, but I'm not going to get into what it does because it's too nerdy. The point is, like, I did that this last a week or so ago.
Okay,
awesome.
Learning a
TopoGun.
new skill,
I love
quote unquote,
it.
to make some 3D art. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice. Rennie got a little time in there, so we got
I learned a lot of new skills on Alien Country, but that's boring. I'm not going to talk about that. We played a role-playing game with some friends that was a fairly new experience for me. I've done role-playing before, but this game was like somebody's made-up game that he made himself. And it
Like
was,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, like Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh,
and it was really fun. And we had like a little date night for like 4 to 6 weeks or something with another couple, and we were just going and playing their game. And that was a new experience for me, like really getting into it and like kind of like enjoying the character and the story with a bunch of friends.
How cool.
Very cool,
I love
very
that.
cool.
That's
Noted.
awesome. Okay, back to the show. So we're going into vision, right, babe?
Yeah.
Want to
So,
get into?
I think, we're going to be talking here a little bit about, Alien Country, a little bit about that and more about your relationship. But let's start with the vision, right? For you guys, for your TV and film career, what's the vision here?
The vision is for Alien Country to be a smash success and to get us to the next level, whether that's directing something that already exists or creating a whole new entity that we can take to, a studio like Netflix or, a distributor, like Netflix or Hulu, and start from the ground up again. Yeah. So that's the vision. I mean, we can elaborate on that, but
yeah, I mean, you have to think about it. I think I like the term creative entrepreneur or artist entrepreneur is how I sort of see myself. And ultimately, I think in terms of, there are things that are hobbies, there are things that are jobs, and there's things that are career. And, hobbies are things you're starting to explore, processes like 3D modeling or, directing or producing or anything, acting. That's a process. You're learning, do I like this? Do I want to do this? And then once you start to build skills, you can turn that into a job, right? And a job could be it could have a very short term limit. It could be 1 gig, or it could be a couple of years of full-time employment, whatever. but a job lets you know I can make money doing this thing, this artistic process. And so Alien Country is still a job at this phase, right? We have made a single product, a single movie. I mean, it's going to have more than one product in the end, but it's a movie that we want to sell and we want to turn a profit on that. But we want that job to turn into a big career. And how big that career goes is, my heart says, I want to build an empire. It was a really weird moment. And I say those words not lightly, but I was driving home after we had, and here's the story of Alien Country. We had been working on this project for years and we're able to raise money. And we told ourselves, come hell or high water, we're going to make this movie, because every year I would go to the Sundance film festival and I'd sit in the audiences and say, dang it, I don't want to sit in another one of these, screenings of a movie having never made a movie myself, because I tell people I want to. So I said, come hell or high water, this year I am making Alien Country. I'm making this movie.
January 2020.
Yeah, it was January 2020. So hell hit.
Yes.
And of course, naturally, COVID just shut everything down, but we still were able to raise money during that time. And we said, well, maybe there's a safe window. And there actually was. There was a fairly safe window in Utah specifically. When COVID, there weren't a lot of cases happening. We were in a yellow or green state at that point. And we said, we can shoot this film here safely, being compliant with, regulations, but we can shoot this movie. And we shot it for 3 weeks. And everyone on set, they basically, especially the actors, I felt like no one had the opportunities to work like that whole year. And they were all so grateful and excited. And the energy I felt was so empowering that I said, this is what I want to experience the rest of my life. I want to create, this is what I want to experience the rest of my life. I want to create opportunities for people to be employed. So if I think about my vision, I think about building an empire, and that's a huge word to say, but something that can outlive my lifespan. I can create opportunities, work opportunities, creative opportunities for thousands of people, not just myself. A job is something that I can do. My career path, which is directing, will go that direction. But my empire will require producing and giving other directors opportunity and other actors and actresses opportunity. And I really think that that's where I want to go, is let this single movie turn into, like Renny was saying, a franchise, right?
Yes.
Make a big thing. That franchise will lead to more and more other opportunities to build other franchises and to build other one-off projects and one-off jobs, and to help lift other, actors and directors in my orbit.
Yes.
And orbit ultimately.
I say hell yes to that. And I say, anyone listening, if you are in the film industry and you're looking for the next big hit film, Alien Country is it. And that I see, and I said this on set, I'm like, guys, there needs to be a follow-up series to this. Like, I see this being like the film that blows everyone away, and then have a whole series and all this different, like you said, you build a whole world around a project. And I just really, really believe in that. And I love that. I too love that so much about filmmaking. Like, the moment I got on set, I was like, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I want to create opportunities for other people. Because I think people listening that aren't in the film world, what's so beautiful about being on a good energy film set is that you really are good. There's so much opportunity for so many people. I mean, one film can create hundreds, if not thousands of jobs for people. And not just any job, but like could be their dream jobs. And so I just think it's really important. And I think for anyone listening that has a dream to create something, when you think about it like that, it's so much more empowering, that it's not just about you. It's like, no, like, I'm doing this for so many other people out there. And we all come together and create this thing. So I know, I'll say it right here and we can look back on this video, but I really see us four doing another big project together and blowing the world away with that one. Lots of them.
Well, and kudos to you two also, like, coming to Utah, not knowing us, like, the way we met was very cool. Like, we had lunch or something up north. Like, you guys were having some business meeting.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like, a couple weeks before we started shooting, and we were talking about the film, and, like, I did feel like this connection, like, very quickly with you two. But I felt like, even like when you read the script, Rachel, like, you saw the vision and you caught the vision, and I felt that excitement for it even before you were on set, and that just speaks volumes to us as creators. But like, that's what empowers us to want to create and to bring more opportunity to more people. It's like, it's working with people like you who also have a plethora of opportunity going on, and you're so generous and giving with your own time and energy and talents. it's just beautiful when you meet people like that. So
Thank you, guys.
Everyone here is just a rising tide that lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could literally add to that though, like just so that the Relationship Renegades like listeners know, like I ultimately, I don't really enjoy the process of casting in some ways, because when I see talent, I want to cast everybody. But we had a bunch of people read for the role that Rachel was cast in, and she just blew away like everyone in the room with her audition. And the reality is, like, the character and the sides, which is what they give part of the script, right? You give them lines from the movie, like they weren't great. Let's be honest. Like, they weren't great lines.
Let's be honest.
But then, like, Rachel gave the character such life and attitude and originality, and being able to collaborate with amazing actors like Rachel, and then she played across from Corbin Allred, like they lifted and elevated the work, and so many people were there. And I think the one thing that came to my mind just a moment ago was Casey Clyde, who was like the lead in the film. He said after a week on set, he had called his wife, and he was like, this is the actor's dream, to be working with other people who just are so passionate about what they're doing. It feels like it might not be the biggest movie or the highest budget or whatever, but everyone cares about the product.
Yeah.
And that's what we want is to find people that we love to work with who just care and elevate. We elevate, a rising tide.
Yeah. And I think this is important to note. In relationships on the show, we always talk about, again, that creating the space, whether it's literally or metaphorically, for people to feel safe, seen, heard, and loved. I think the work that you guys have done on yourself, like, you can tell when someone walks into a room and you're like, oh, this kind of negative person, or you can talk about like, oh, this guy seems fun, or this girl seems like, I love the energy, right? People say that a lot. And I think whether it's your friends, your family, or even on set. So, right, I'm on set, and it's been beautiful the past 4 years to like get into the film world and really like just having so much more respect now for actors and directors and producer, because it's so many things that have to get stacked together, and it's all like filmed backwards and all this kind of stuff. And so much more respect. But Rachel and then myself now really has seen like some great sets and then not so great sets. And so I think kudos to you guys for creating the space for people, not only to pick the right people, because I think it says a lot for the person to pick the right person, and then also to create that space where people like have this environment where they're feeling great. And then
that's
I think
a big skill. That's a big skill. A lot of people don't have that skill.
And so where I want to go with this, kind of transitioning a little bit, because I think it's important. If you guys don't know Boston and Renny, please go check them out if you're just tuning in, because on and off set, you guys are singing, dancing, creating, battling each other, like playing game. I'm like, there's all these things that you dancing, acting, working, loving, being ridiculous, which is what I love, because we're unbelievably ridiculous. And I think you guys are the only couple truly that like I think matches us. I'm like, these guys are also so ridiculous.
It's true.
And so I want to know
openly ridiculous. Openly ridiculous.
Yeah. And so what we talk about, like we only can wish upon the world that people can be so like not childish, but like childlike.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, on and off set, what is it about you guys? Personalities, qualities, values? I don't know, right? Like these guys, when you see them, you're going to be like, I want to be like them. It's like this loving, fun environment. So what is it about you guys, again, values, qualities, personalities, that you think makes that happen?
Well, I married a child.
Yes.
And actually, while you're thinking about it, I have to say this, because I think it's just such a great point to what Emilio said. I had literally sent my friends one of your guys' video, because I was like, oh yeah, I want to invite them to this like holiday thing, and I'm like, here's Boston and Renny. I just sent them literally a video of your guys, and as soon as she watched it, she was like, wait, I want to be their friend, like, and I just thought like that, it's like the perfect statement. But to people listening, I think it's not just because like it's the work that people do on themselves that create that kind of self-mastery and self-awareness that allows that joy and openness and playfulness. And so I don't want anyone listening.
Or you just don't grow up like Rachel.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see.
But I just don't want people listening to be like, oh, well, they like just they were born with it or something like that. And I think that, when we're young, we hear this thing of like, oh, the cool kids, or like, you know what I mean? Like people like each other for different reasons, and they're accepted for different reasons. I think it's empowering to know that it's actually like the work that you do on yourself. And so obviously I'm excited to hear your guys' answer, but I just really wanted people to know that.
Well, first things first, Boston makes me laugh every single day. So, and it's my favorite thing about him, and is the fun that he has, not just with me, but with my family, like the people that I love as well. Like the people that I love him as well. And I have to admit that, like, I think that I am more prone to like be more serious sometimes, or take life more seriously. And I've literally made the goal at times to just like let loose more, or like laugh more, or joke more. Or I used to be really into wanting to do dramatic movies, and now I want to do more light-hearted comedic movies, you know. Like, I think that, like you were saying, Rachel, it's like it's all about your wanting to be better as a person and as a human. And I'm like the self-help junkie that like can never be helped. I always want to be better than
Yes, me too.
And that's actually like one of my goals has been to be just more fun, lighthearted. And I know that's who I am at my core, because I was a very goofy kid, you know, and I was always like a class clown, you know, depending on the grade and the class, you know, like it was always, I was one of those kids who just like, who really did love to just like goof off and have fun. But I think that like now that I'm like an entrepreneur and I have to take life seriously, like I do take things more seriously than Boston a lot of the times. But I mean, we both love to have fun. So
yeah, that's powerful.
No, I love what you're saying. And I think having fun every day is important, looking for opportunities to have fun, not take yourself too seriously. But also I think especially for guys, one of the biggest things that I don't want to say like I don't feel like I'm necessarily unique, but I feel very like I'm an empathetic person. And I'm always like trying to think of what other people are thinking. And it doesn't necessarily mean I am always considerate. I've learned that about myself, right? Like I think that learning to put yourself in someone else's shoes is a skill that you can develop. But empathy is just a key fundamental principle to having any kind of healthy relationship. And I get frustrated with like family members who I'm just like, they really aren't thinking for themselves or whatever. And then I have to like, but every time you have that thought about somebody else, or you're frustrated at someone else's behavior, just start to say, okay, when do I do that same thing?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, that's like, cause anyone's behavior, even your, you know, your niece who's 6 years old, you're just like, why does she talk over people, you know, all the time? And it's like, well, I guess we all are doing that at dinner right now. You know, like, hey, you're just sitting there saying like, okay, so there's so many behaviors, but that self-aware piece, and empathy is important. And a funny story of empathy, is like, sometimes you can be like over empathetic. Today I was flying a drone over a herd of antelope.
Nice. Typical
so
Sunday.
Beautiful. And I posted a TikTok like an hour ago, but like I was like, this is so cool. And I love antelope. They're like one of my favorite animals right now. But
Right now.
I realized like, wow, they're all running. And I realized they're running from my drone. And I was like, oh, and I felt so bad. I was like, now I'm just harassing these beautiful antelope for my own exploits. Stopped. And I was like, you know what? Those antelope, they're having fun. They're doing great. Chill out, bro. I think you're overthinking this one. So
that's so
but it's
awesome.
funny. But like, I don't know, you know, just constantly trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes or hooves is important.
Or hooves, either one.
That's
Yes,
right.
Super important. I love that.
Well, babe, I think it's ready for our Renegade moment.
So this is one of our favorite segments in the show. We chose the title of the show and our brand really intentionally, of Relationship Renegades. Being a renegade meaning you choose different. You go against the grain. And so Renegade Moment segment is all about sharing with our audience, what was your renegade moment? A moment in time when maybe you were stuck in a negative loop, or you kept doing the same thing that you knew wasn't serving you anymore. And then you finally were like, enough is enough. I'm choosing different. I'm going to be a renegade. Here I go. What was that for each of you? You know, how'd you do it? What happened? What was the outcome?
I'll go first and I'll go shorter.
He's so empathetic.
Look at him thinking about how you feel.
No, like there are so many voices that will tell you don't stop, quit, You shouldn't try. People aren't going to like that. That's not the right way to do it. Like, there's a million messages that come at you all the time, especially in the entertainment industry or in any creative pursuit, which doesn't, creativity comes in all, shapes and sizes, right? But people are going to tell you not to take risks because ultimately they're afraid of taking them themselves. With Alien Country, our feature film, there were plenty of people who told us how they think we should go about doing it. And it basically came from, here's the safest way to do it. Do it like Hollywood does it. You've got to raise tens of millions of dollars, or at least millions and millions of dollars. You've got to get some giant A-lister, Tom Holland or Chris Pratt, to play your lead, and the reality is that's not real for someone who's starting out. It's just not reality. And so as a Renegade moment, we had to decide we needed to write a movie that we could make, and with the best information we can gather, which isn't going to be everything. We're not going to understand how to perfectly make our first feature film without making it, or a feature film without making it. We just gathered information and said, if we make our movie for this much money, we can, based on the connections we already have, we feel like we can make a good product that could turn a profit. Great. Let's ignore what everyone else says, who's saying do it this way or that, and let's just let's take a creative risk and let's make our movie. That was my biggest Renegade moment, was just saying, look, light a fire and people will come for the heat.
I love that.
Do. And then all of a sudden, all these people who said I had a better way of doing this, who aren't making a movie, they come and they say, wow, you're doing so great. And you say, thanks for telling me how I should have done it. I couldn't do it your way. I did it my way. And now you still want to be my friend and you want to work with me. And that's great. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Moving against the grain a little bit, but it's ultimately what you have to do is that creative risk. Take a leap.
No, but thank you so much for sharing that, and that's so powerful for any creative pursuit, because like you said, you could have fallen into the trap, into the lie that it had to be that certain way, and you could have still been working on trying to make it that way, and there wouldn't be a movie, there wouldn't have been a cast, there wouldn't have been, like, so many people are trying to tell. What's that one quote that's like, while you're actually, like, at least running around the lap, like doing laps, there's people on couches sitting at you telling you how you should be running better, but they're the ones that are sitting on the couch doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like, they're it's just like, do you want to be the person that's on the sidelines, or do you want to be the person that's actually, like,
in the ring,
doing
or
it?
in on the field.
Yeah.
So
light a fire, guys.
I love that.
Yeah, and before Renny jumps in and shares her Renegade moment, we were meeting even after, so we took a meeting after Alien Country with these two guys out of LA, fantastic, studio executive level people, and they're great and they're kind, and they were like talking about how we were making Alien Country, and they're like, well, it's so risky. What you should have done is you should have raised $10 million and got this cast attached, secured your distribution, da da da. And I was like, we tried for years. We tried that for years. And I was like, but would you have taken a meeting with me if I hadn't made this movie? And they were like, well, I guess I wouldn't have. And I was like, exactly. You didn't take the meeting to give me that money and that chance. So I did what I could do. And now all of a sudden, here you are.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm doing is working. And
That's
I'm
so
not,
good.
So it works. But
Trailblazing.
Yeah. All right, Renny, you're up.
So professionally, I feel like my Renegade moment I already shared, which was a moment on a film producer's set where I was like, wow, I want to be a producer. And that was a very empowering moment because I didn't know what that meant. But, looking back 10 years later, I'm like, oh, wow, I did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like, I'm going to be a producer today. It's just kind of like happened. But on a personal level, I went through some transitional times with my family and my culture and my faith and even my relationships, where I was really struggling for a while, just like feeling like I was okay with myself, and not living up to other people's expectations. And I was dealing with so much cognitive dissonance that was taking up my creative power, like when you're not settled with your life and like where you're going and who you are, if you don't feel good about that, you can't create beautiful things. You can't make a business. At least I can't. Maybe other people can. But I had this moment where I was talking to my sister about my life, and I just was like, I feel more peaceful living this way than I do living in my previous past. And she said to me, Renny, don't mess with peace. Like that's so precious. Like you can't mess with peace. And that really was like, it was still a long journey for me to get to a place where I was like, okay, I am loved and lovable no matter what I am or who I am or what choices I make, and I'm going to move forward and believe. And it just took, that was like the moment where I could really start embracing that peace and not making myself feel more guilty for not living up to other people's expectations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Renny, that's so profound. And I feel you, because I went through something super similar, and I'm sure, a lot of our listeners have as well. Anytime you go against anything, if you were brought up a certain way and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know if I feel good living this way anymore. And you're kind of challenging those belief systems that are so at your core. I mean, I went through something where I too had panic attacks, anxiety attacks all the time, because and this is what's crazy. We talked about this with a mentor as well, and I think it's really important to bring up, of a lot of people have it so backwards. Like they try to focus all their eggs on I got to get money, I got to get money, I got to get money, or I got to make a career, and they think that once they do that, then they'll focus on their relationship and their health. But they're like, well, if you do that, what ends up happening is you're so miserable and unhappy and unhealthy, you cannot be productive. You cannot make, like you said, you can't make a successful business. And so you can focus on, I just love that quote that you said, you can't mess with peace, and protecting your peace. And peace is going to look different for different people. So if you're listening right now, ask yourself that question, what brings you peace, and is it something that maybe is different from what you used to do? And, what kind of changes do you need to make in your life to create more peace?
Well, I feel like,
and that's okay too. Allowing yourself to change and grow. You're going to discover different things that bring you excitement or peace or happiness. And that's okay too, So
powerful.
Yeah. I think there's so many people pivoting right now in the past year and a half. And, if we just if you think about what's bringing me, am I having fun? Is this bringing me peace, joy, laughter, all this kind of stuff? Because at the end of the day, we've interviewed a lot of people, and, there's people let's say Brendan Burchard, which he's interviewed 1,000 people on the deathbed. And all of them, the main theme at the very end of them is all they really cared about was three things. Did they live? Did they love? And did they matter? And it always kind of came back to those things. So it's interesting when we interview people. And so coming back to is this bringing me peace? And especially with millennials that are coming up, right?
Yeah.
Whether they're future directors or producers. I love that you also said that too, Boston, about please guys, light a fire, people will come. I think there's so many people sitting on the sidelines wondering, should I start a fire? What kind of fire should I start? Where should I start it? Light a fire, and the rest will follow. So wise words. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Well, I really want to transition back to, because I really want people to understand, we've been talking a lot about Alien Country and this movie that you guys made, but I really want them to understand that I think you guys said it was around a 7-year journey from the very beginning to the very end, right? And because I want people to understand, because I think if somebody, when Alien Country is out and it's a huge success and everyone's like, oh my gosh, how'd they do this? And they're just looking at this couple, you guys thinking oh, they were just lucky.
People are going to think that.
They will.
Think that.
They will, because they always do. But talk about the journey and all the ups and downs and how long it really took, and how you overcame all those challenges.
Yeah, and if you were to talk to your
younger self,
what would you say? Kind of all in that bag.
Yeah, the first and most interesting thing is I think about time differently, because I went to film school, and, at a film school in Utah, and of course, you got this guy named Jared Hess, who probably 10 years before I was in film school, made Napoleon Dynamite. And just boom, now he's making stuff with Jack Black, studio stuff, and that was the standard for what you thought was supposed to happen when you go to film school. You make a film right out of school, and now you're in Hollywood and you're doing the thing. But that was not the journey I ended up taking, or the journey that frankly was right for me. This movie, yes, the first iteration I came up with while in film school. This is over 10 years ago. Right. And it wasn't the movie that if I had made a version of Alien Country. It wouldn't have been called that. It would have been something else. It would have been different, and it would have told a different story. But it would have been terrible compared to what we made this last, in the last year or 2 years for Alien Country. And I think the reality is, I was always trying to come up with fun new projects, and launching. I went through probably 2 or 3 YouTube channels before I made the YouTube channel that became, what basically helped us build our career. And that YouTube channel had dozens of short films in it, and ultimately, the Alien Country project was just in the back burner for a while. But it was after 10 years of working and honing my craft and getting better at directing and getting better at writing scripts and understanding story and failing and never reaching my creative aspirations. Like Ira Glass talks about the gap, right? Where it's you have great taste when you get into the game, but your capacity to make content that reaches your taste is not there. And so you are constantly just trying to build your skill set so that your capacity can reach your aesthetic taste. And that took over a decade. And I don't know that I'm completely there with this movie. I still have higher expectations, but a lot of it comes down to the great American dollar. But ultimately, it was 10 years of slog and working through and hating most of the content I was creating because it wasn't good enough for what I wanted. And then finally, when I felt like, you know what, I'm ready. And then hustling to just say, okay, well, how can I put all the chips on this one space and bet my life that I can actually deliver? And then ultimately, I can't say this and have enough impact for the listeners to hear, but the amount of effort I personally, let alone Renny, has put into this film is unbelievable. I work so much and so hard at this every day because it's everything I want. And it's every day waking up. And frankly, I've learned better habits just so I can be more active, putting all my creative energy into one single project. And if the project is terrible, great, I can move on. But it won't be, because ultimately it will, we put enough into it that it will be good. It will be good, and I will be proud of it. And and again, it might not be the perfect thing, but it will be perfect for everything we've been able to, afford and achieve and put into it at this point in time. So it's a long process.
Well, I want to say something real quick there too. And then, I'd love to hear what you have to say, Renny, about this. Is that, it reminds me, I think it was Tony Robbins who said it. It's like people, especially with millennials out there. And I think there's a lot of topic around this, but people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10, right? Like a decade. And you're continuing to go forward, right? You're like, well, I might still not be there. And what I love about that also is that there was a book I read called Mastery. I forgot who the author was. Remember that we read that together?
So good.
And a lot of times masters never reach it. There is no there. You never get there. You're just you're just on this beautiful journey.
Just the journey.
And especially great if people are listening and you love, hopefully you're loving what you do, like you guys are. And so this 24/7 is just look, we're just gonna freaking blood, sweat, tears, laughter, fun, ridiculous. I could see you just doing this the rest of your lives. And so, I think just people who are listening, make this a journey. Don't try to do something overnight or in a year. Good things take time.
Yeah.
And you're really developing these skills. And so it was beautiful share. Thank you for sharing that. But go ahead, Renny.
Oh, I was just going to say, for context, we just celebrated our 7th wedding anniversary.
Ooh, congrats.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. But we started to pitch this film. It was a different version of the script 7 years ago, our first year of marriage. And we were going for a lot more money. And then it was just a process of rejection and and a lot of table reads and figuring out what was working, what was not. And then eventually, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago now, where we were we have got to slash the scope of this movie and make it more doable and more reachable for us. And then, we really started heavily rewriting the year before 2020. We did a massive rewrite. In 2020, we did a massive rewrite, and then we were able to film in 2020, and we're still working on it in 2021. And one of the most fascinating scenes of the movie that nobody's going to realize unless they watch a behind the scenes moment is that first scene, Rachel, where you and I are watching the Demolition Derby, and Peyton's there, and Corbin is there, and they're crashing the cars, right? We have footage from 3 different years in that scene.
Wow.
It's literally 2019, 2020, 2021, and we have a real Demolition Derby that was put on by like a town. We have a green screen studio, and then we have Casey driving a car in the actual like arena where it's empty.
Yes.
So we have 3 different years of footage in this one like 60-second scene, right?
So amazing.
Anyway.
So incredible.
Yeah.
I think it's just so important for people to know this, and I just really hope that anyone that has any sort of creative pursuit, passion, dream, my dad said this to me a while ago when I was young, and it really just stuck with me. He was like, look, the same amount of time is going to go by regardless of what you do, so you might as well spend it doing something that you're really passionate about.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
I was just like, and he's a brain surgeon. He had to go to residency for 15 years. He had to go to school for so long. And when people asked him, that's what he thought. And I just was like, gosh, you know what? So, especially, when I get super discouraged about my acting career, producing career, or any of the stuff, or our brand or anything like that, I'm just like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not about... And we talk about this all the time, babe, right? Like a lot of times we create our own expectations for something, like the way that it should go. We attach to that expectation, and then when it doesn't go the way we think it should, we create our own suffering.
Totally.
And if you can learn to just like adapt and flow, like you guys did, of like, nope, we're just gonna go over here. Nope, we're just gonna. It's gonna go this way now. Like you save yourself a lot of maybe unnecessary suffering. So yeah, so powerful.
Sorry, you just blew my mind. That's
I think we suffered
that is
some, but...
such a good way to look at it. Yeah, and I want to take that advice. That's going to be my new mantra for now. Is like I just say like being willing to adjust and adapt and accept. Like rather than okay, I need to do it needs to be this way, or I need to have done this, and then I fail. And like Gary Vee talks about that all the time. Where you put these pressure in, and it's like I got to be a millionaire by 30. And actually, I would say because I feel like I talked up like what I've done like. I was just doing that every day, and I don't want anyone out there who has a creative dream or vision. I don't want to shut them down and say it's so much work and I work so hard. But the difference, like you're saying, Rachel, is like if you love it, like fill your life with it. And I mentioned earlier this idea of hobby, job, career. Like just find things like make them hobbies, make them things you're trying, you're creative, you're looking for new skills, new processes, and this could be in an art form or not. But they may be something you enjoy or not. And if you enjoy them, try to find ways to like turn that into, a revenue generating or a good experience generating process. And eventually that will become a career path for you,
Love it.
And it doesn't, and it doesn't have to take 1 year. It can take 10 and whatever, or it can take 20 or 100. I don't know.
No, absolutely. And if you guys are just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're interviewing the award-winning duo Boston and Renny, talking about all relationships on and off the TV and film set. And just, what we want to go into, we're coming up to our last round here, favorite finds. We're going to continue to get to know Boston Renny a lot deeper here. And you want to take this one away?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty simple. This segment is literally just like any sort of favorite find that you want to share with the audience. Could be a book, a film, a TV show, a song, a
recent,
place.
or,
anything you want to share that brought joy to your life that might bring joy to someone else's.
Yeah, no, I'll jump right in. And this is it's kind of funny. So I talk to my younger sister all the time, and her husband run a little, it's a craft making business. Well, he's a craftsman and he makes incredible utensils. So they're called Black Swan, handmade. So you can find them on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But the reason I bring them up is I keep thinking about, I have these conversations with my sister and and my brother-in-law, her husband, about, ultimately like craft, right? And what you're working on now, and the crafts that you can make now, or the films you can make now versus the films you can make in, 50 years. But he was like, when you become that master, right? Like I picked a great career path because I'm excited right now about the movies I'm going to be making in my 50s, which might be like the best stuff I make in my life, or, it could be in my 50s or 60s, right? Like, cause then I've done it for so long. But he's anyway, Black Swan Handmade. He makes these incredibly, detailed, handcrafted, like, kitchen utensils. But like each one has that same type of, this is something beautiful that you can feel, and he's dedicated his life to just literally making spoons and stuff.
That's so cool.
I love that. Yeah.
So if nothing else, check out their Instagram, because it's just like super cool to just see the energy that goes into one single thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thanks, Sharon.
All right, Renny, you're up.
We just recently watched a show on Hulu that gave me so much joy.
Heyo.
It feels a little shallow, but it's called The Great, and we just we loved the first season. It's Nicholas Hoult and it's Elle Fanning. Yeah, Elle Fanning. She plays Catherine the Great, and the writing is brilliant. The characters are brilliant. You fall in love with all of the cast, and we literally said the other day, we're like, we want to make something this amazing someday. It's been that inspirational.
Well, I don't know if you heard me on set like over a year ago. We watched season 1, and I was on set just saying huzzah all the time.
Yeah, you were. I do remember that.
That's what it's from.
That's what it's
I was
from.
just doing this Nicholas Hoult impression, because he plays Peter the Terrible, and he's like somehow like he's a sociopath, and you love him.
You somehow just fall in love
Those
with
are
him.
always so interesting.
So,
Yeah.
All right, that's what we're watching
So,
next.
Nicholas Hoult and Elle Fanning, if you guys are listening, you do an amazing job.
Man, well, we're always looking for that, so I want to go watch that now.
Yeah. By the way,
recommendations.
Yeah. By the way, who are some producers, directors, actors that you guys really look up to?
Oh, for me, I mean, Edgar Wright it was one of the most inspiring directors I've seen. When he made Scott Pilgrim versus the World, like my heart sunk, because I was like, dang it, he made a movie that was everything I wanted to do already. So now what do I have?
Son of a gun.
But no, Edgar Wright, absolutely. John Favreau, I look up to him a lot.
I love John Favreau.
He's always looking for new technological innovations. Lana Wachowski as well. Team Wachowski, I think, have always, they do what I love, which is finding a technical challenge and a creative challenge and meeting those two things together. So
very cool.
Cool.
I adore Reese Witherspoon and what she's done with her career. And just she's redefined what women can do on screen. And Britt Marling is another filmmaker that I really look up to. She's a producer, actress like I am, and I just think that the content that she creates is so fascinating, and she paved herself a way, and that's
so cool.
Brilliant.
I love it.
I love it. Well, baby love, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, I mean,
Bring us home?
This has been so incredible, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everyone who's listening.
Yeah.
We always just love to ask if there's one piece of advice you want to leave the audience with. And remember that, it could be someone that's really struggling right now in their relationship with themselves, with their partner, with their family, with their friends,
with their career,
with
anything.
money, with anything. Anything that just... any sort of downloads or inspiration that you can leave anyone that could maybe really use it right now?
I would just say that if you have something that's been bothering you, whether it's in your heart or your soul or your brain, make it right. And that can mean anything for anybody, but I've just found that when I have things that sort of that turn into a brain loop, a thought loop or a negative cycle, you either need to, meditate it or journal it out completely, or talk to that person or change the situation somehow. So
yeah, so profound, actually.
Well
super
said.
simple, but so profound, because some people just don't they don't do that.
People get caught in the feedback loop all the time.
Yeah.
Some words came to mind that I think are great for me and great, hopefully great for lots of people, is the idea of you can and be kind. If there's something you want to do, a creative process, or, just an adventure or whatever you want to do, you can do it, right? And on the journey, be kind. Because especially in a collaborative medium like film, you have to build relationships with your spouse, with your friends, with your creative collaborators. And ultimately, yes, you can do it, but it's always better if you're kind to the people you do it with. Ultimately, you can and be kind.
Oh, I love that.
So cool.
Guys, those are great.
Yeah.
also, before we close, I just have to say that my nickname in high school was Renegade.
Yeah.
Dropping the mic.
Yes.
Be a renegade.
Wow.
That's so good.
I didn't know that. That's super cool.
I love that. Yeah. Well, we just love you guys. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for listening. Again, please go follow Boston Renny. Where can they follow you guys
Yeah,
at?
where can they find y'all?
The best place right now for me, especially, is Alien Country. We've got, we're on TikTok, Instagram, so check us out. And our YouTube channel is called Indie Film School. So we post to there. That's for filmmakers specifically right now. But yeah, so Alien Country, just Google that.
Yeah.
You'll find us if you look at Instagram at Alien Country. We're tagged all over the place.
Yeah.
They are.
I love it. At
And
Alien Country.
at Alien Country. So also too, and we're going to put this in the captions, but as we're kind of coming out, maybe a short little intro of what Alien Country is.
Oh yeah, give us like a.
People have been itching. They're like,
Why should
aliens,
they watch?
aliens.
Why
What?
should
What?
they
What?
watch?
What?
What makes this movie special,
Coming
guys?
up soon, guys.
All right. So if you're into relationships, you probably will like this movie. Here's why. Renny and I kind of got tired of the classic Hollywood romantic comedy because any two knuckleheads can fall in love. It takes some real pros to stay in love. So we decided to write a movie, a romantic comedy about a couple that had already been in a relationship for over a decade, and they were forced into the next phase of the relationship. So flash forward, meet Jimmy and Everly. They've been together 10 years. They live in a small town in the desert, and they accidentally get pregnant, which sends their relationship into kind of a tailspin. Jimmy loves their small town, wants to stay there, wants to raise a family, white picket fence, the whole 9 yards. Everly has dreams of going and being a singer and having a big career and leaving their town behind. So instantly the relationship has this tension. Will they, won't they? Can they adjust to this new phase of life? Well, luckily, aliens invade their small town. That acts as a perfect catalyst for Jimmy and Everly to figure out the most important ways to communicate, deal with this imminent alien invasion, but ultimately figure out that their relationship can survive anything that the universe throws at it. So that's Alien Country. It's a sci-fi action movie with a heartfelt, relationship at its core.
Oh man, this is gonna be 2022's film.
Oh, yes.
You heard it from Boston Renny, everybody.
Yes. Here
I'm
on
gonna say,
Relationship Renegades.
on Fun for Life Radio.
Yes.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Love you guys.
Awesome. Love you guys. See you guys next time.